Hello and welcome to the CXOToday Fireside Chat. My name is L. Subramanian. I'm the publisher of CXOToday.com. In the middle of all the conversation that is going on the semiconductor space and a narrative which is designed to build the Indian semiconductor ecosystem in India, I recently came across a very interesting piece of news. Actually, several interesting pieces of news. I noticed that Accenture, the global consulting company, had actually acquired 3 semiconductor companies in India in the last 3 months. And this was intriguing because I had known Accenture as a consulting company, as a company which advises enterprises on transformation consulting and so on and so forth. I decided to talk to Saurabh Sahu, the India business head of Accenture, on the sidelines of an event that they organized on semiconductors. I asked Mr. Sahu as to what is Accenture actually doing in the semiconductor space. Is it consulting? Is it design? Is it both? And what kind of a role do they envisage for themselves in the Indian semiconductor space and building the Indian semiconductor ecosystem? Please join me as I welcome Saurabh Sahu, Head India Business and member of the APAC Council of Accenture, for a conversation on CXOToday Fireside Chat. Mr. Sahu, first of all, thanks a lot for talking to CXOToday. I really appreciate the time that you're taking. I know it's a very busy day for you today. You've been in and out. But just wanted to get some views from you on 2 aspects. One is on the semiconductor, the conversation that we had in the morning,
right,
and then the overall economy and the media entertainment. So I keep hearing this, this rhetoric that semiconductor self-reliance in India is going to add to the economy of India by multifold.
Right.
Would you like to explain that? Because I don't see the multifold part of it.
Right.
I see the growth part of it.
Okay.
I don't see the multifold part of it.
Okay. So that's a great question. I think the multifold part of it comes on 2 angles. The first, in terms of the number of jobs it will create.
Mm-hmm.
So very clearly, as you can see from the various reports and the investments that are coming in this space, which both the government is trying to do and pushing through, the kind of incentive schemes that have been launched for various global as well as Indian companies, incentivizing them to therefore set up.
You're talking about the PLI and the DLI.
The PLI schemes around it. The India Semiconductor Mission, which has been specifically set up,
yes,
right, to essentially further this initiative. So it's going to obviously employ a huge number of jobs,
mm-hmm,
right? Jobs which are going to be in a different space than we have created so far.
Right.
These are not, so we had a wave of those IT jobs being created. In between, we had a wave of certain automation and digital jobs being created.
Mm-hmm.
This is the next wave of jobs in terms of very niche engineering,
mm-hmm,
right? Very specific engineering. So you're talking about chip design.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about software testing of a specific nature. Right? You're talking about digital twins in this space. So these are jobs going to be created across the spectrum, right? And across a broad spectrum of capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, the multifold growth is going to come from lakhs of jobs, which will therefore be created, which will be deployed by this sector. As you know, the overall electronics industry is already nearing close to $100 billion. It is supposed to reach about $500 million in the next 4 to 5 years.
mm-hmm,
And hence, that will always be fueled by this kind of the growth in terms of jobs that we create. The second angle, obviously, is in terms of, and today we alluded to that session today, is whether the growth is going to come from local demand,
mm-hmm,
or India supplying to global demand.
exactly.
And that is the unique position about India. In similar times like China, semiconductors, we have a huge local demand as well, right? Our auto companies are growing. The phone manufacturing has started up in India.
Yes.
Apple coming in here. Semiconductors are predominantly used in these areas, like your automotives, your phone manufacturing, your electronics, and the likes of it. So now you have both the waves happening. You have industries which use semiconductors starting to manufacture in India, and therefore that will fuel the entire local demand. And you also have the global giants coming and setting up shops here, like with an Intel or a Micron, the AMDs of the world, and therefore supplying to the outer world as well, and hence beyond India. And hence, combination of these 2 factors is therefore what is going to define the multifold growth.
So the follow-up question to that is that, yes, so you're going to create demand for jobs, demand for people, but from a supply side, are we ready? Do we have the kind of people who are going to have to be employed in these industries? Do we have the kind of skill sets? Are our engineering colleges creating those kind of people? Are our curriculum, I'm just going back one step at a time.
Absolutely.
is our curriculum kind of tailored
Right.
to create these kind of engineers?
Yeah.
Those are questions that are still hanging in the air, aren't
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, I mentioned this in my opening remarks today morning, wherein I said, the entire wind beneath the wings of the semiconductor industry is going to be skilled labor, skilled people, right, who understand the space well, and the entire education system of the country will have to support it. During the IT revolution, we had computer science as a mainstream engineering subject,
Right.
wherein, and from there emerged the Satya Nadellas and the Sundar Pichais of the world. Likewise, semiconductor and technologies of semiconductor will have to become mainstream in education. The government will have to obviously look at furthering that across. Then a lot of private-public partnerships in terms of education in this sector has to come in. To succinctly answer your question, we are not fully ready, right? We are probably putting the cart before the horse here.
Exactly.
But having said that, we have to make a beginning, right? And I used to lead analytics earlier, and I used to always keep talking to my clients to say, you will never have the perfect data for you to do analytics, right? You will have to begin with a certain use case and the business outcome, and then see what data you will need therefore to create the ecosystem for it. It's the same thing in semiconductors as well. We have to have the confidence of even the people who want to get into this space to know that there will be jobs for them.
Right.
There will be, there is potential in them. And then you will know which kind of people can therefore go into this education system in place. Okay. So we have to do a fair bit of work there, but I think we're getting there.
The adjunct question to that is that, there was a report published by the US Semiconductor Association which said that there are going to be about 110,000 job shortage in the US in the next 2 years alone. And then there's a global shortage of skills, especially in this sector. So question is that, are we going to then face a situation where we skill here and they work elsewhere? So is there going to be some kind of a brain drain which is going to accentuate the problem that we have?
Yeah. Great question again. Well, I think hopefully it should not be the case, because I think we have learned learned from the journeys of the entire IT revolution and the likes of it so far. So I think it will be unlike the IT revolution, where a lot of the demand was only happening outside of India, and therefore it naturally lent itself to having a lot of people, the brain drain happening, and therefore seeking so-called greener pastures there. Unlike that, the semiconductor situation, as we just discussed, is that there is a lot of potential within the country itself.
In India. Okay.
Right? So I think you will have, if we play the cards right, if we have the right career paths created for our people, they will see a lot of the potential happening here. Okay. You will always have some set of people who will want to explore beyond, right? And in a way, it's good because then you get that global exposure.
Yes.
So if in IT it was say 20 and 80, 20% stayed back here and 80% kind of drained out, I think it should be ideally the reverse in this case. If not that much, at least 50-50.
Okay. All right. So, sir, when we talk about building a self-reliant semiconductor industry in India, what does it take to build? What are those things that we are going to build, and why haven't we built till now?
I think the foremost thing about any building any special or such a large ecosystem and enterprise is both corporate will and political will, right? I think the corporate will and the political will are, in a way, one has to take the lead over the other in a way, right? I think we lacked that in the past, and that's the reason why maybe, as Mr. Rajiv Chandrasekhar also alluded to today morning, it was a history of missed opportunities, right? In a way. So I think at that point in time, we were not as a country mature enough to understand the potential of this space. I'm told that there are some semiconductor plants which are set up in the 70s,
yes,
right, and which were lying defunct, have been converted to something else, and now people have wanted to kind of bring them back again. So I think simply put, the political will and the corporate will have come together now. One. Secondly is in the past, even if let's say we had this, we probably did not have the right skill sets in the education system to support it, which today we do, right? India is now the digital hub of the world. We are a cradle of entire IT and automation in the world. So we know how to therefore build and propagate the skills. So being self-reliant essentially means that A, you have the will and the investment to support it, and B, you have the set of all the ecosystem parameters within your own country, right? Within your own set to flourish in that space. Both the things are coming together very well. Lastly, obviously, would mean that how well are you able to, a big part of this is obviously companies setting up the plants here, within the country, and then and how well the local demand therefore picks up and and we cater to that.
Yes.
Because I think a lot of the business case today of companies who are setting up the plants in India as well as other companies who are coming in here from outside is also that they will be able to cater to a lot of the pent up local demand as the economy grows to becoming the third largest in the world in the next few years. And hence that is another thing which will hopefully make us more self-reliant.
So that's the difference that you see between the IT and
The semiconductor journey.
because that was predominantly driven by global demand. And
Correct.
This is going to be at least significantly driven by local demand.
Local demand as well.
Okay.
Right? So therefore self-reliance will therefore mean that you have an ecosystem which is created for your own country and therefore you're self-sufficient there, both in terms of supply as well as demand, and at the same time obviously you cater to the global infrastructure obviously.
And what will be the challenges according to you? What will be the key challenges?
Skilled manpower, skilled people.
Yes,
we discussed that very clearly.
What about capital? Do you think we'll be able to attract the kind of capital that we need?
Look, I think for the kind of people who are getting into the fray here, capital should not be a problem, right? We are talking about big corporate houses today, right? We are talking about large enterprises today who are getting into this space. We also saw a lot of I would say small to medium enterprises who are doing their own journeys in some manner.
That was my next question.
Right? In this manner there, and I think today one of the panelists also alluded to that. Hopefully the large enterprises are making a very good judicious business call. When you make a good business call, when you know that there is a business case for it, then you obviously will justify, the capital is justified, and I think they have the right pockets for it. So I don't think capital will be a problem for the large enterprises today. Time will tell how will they succeed in this space. Capital may be a problem for the small and medium enterprises today who today are on the fringes of the semiconductor ecosystem, right? So semiconductor value chain has got multiple components, right? There is fab, there is manufacturing, testing, quality, assembly. Today you have the larger players trying to take up one of these spaces and really going hard at it, right? You have the small and medium industries who are trying to play a little more of a larger value chain play, being on the fringes. Now for them, I think initially it might be a problem, which I think is coming out. And I think then the government and the policies will slowly evolve, right? When they see that the first step is taken for the large enterprises, then you go on to the next step for the small and medium enterprises and so on and so forth. As a country, we are making a lot of investments in MSMEs, right? So Mr. Modi himself and as well as the policies are all structured toward MSMEs.
Yeah.
But I think specific interventions to incentivize small and medium enterprises in semiconductors will be something which will help the capital problem in the near future.
And next few years?
Yes, hopefully that will be the case. Like the way we have come out with PLI incentives and this Indian Semiconductor Mission geared towards some of these large capital intensive projects of large enterprises. I think there will be a time when, and sooner than later, as these plants start manufacturing, as we start meeting some of the local demand, then you'll have this entire ecosystem of small and medium enterprises also coming into
But the PLI is also skewed heavily in favor of the larger players, isn't it?
Yeah, because they are making the larger investments as well. So you always put the money where the bang for the buck is. So it is naturally so, right? Per se. And then it is also a good testimony for the ecosystem to understand whether this is going to be a largely successful play. It will be difficult today to given the incentives to a large set of small and medium enterprises, and then not setting up the right ecosystem for them to succeed. Right, a large part of the small and medium enterprises will be suppliers to these large enterprises. Right, in the journey that we'll take for. If the large enterprises don't succeed, many of them will fail by the wayside here. So I think that's the right step. We go step by step and then we take the journey there. So Accenture, so as you know, we pride us also being ahead of the curve. In fact, the bets we took on digital in the as a consulting firm or as a technology firm has paid good dividends. Right, today Accenture is known as a very large digital transformation player, as the first port of call globally as well as within India. Semiconductor is again that space where we believe that all the right moves are being made, where a strong technology partner like us can obviously come in and add value to the entire ecosystem. With our capabilities end-to-end, which straddle advisory to technology implementation and therefore later on to managed services for long-term contracts, I think that's where clients will see a lot of value there. Globally, our semiconductor story is much older than what you're seeing in India today, because as we mentioned, we have made many acquisitions in this space.
Yes.
Right? We are creating a huge pool of very talented set of people, skill sets, which are not just into the technology domain, the pure play consulting or rather the IT technology domain, but more in the semiconductor technology domain. So we have VLSI engineers, right? We have the right software testers. So these are people who are very nichely skilled in this space. From an India standpoint, we were looking, to grow. right? And we were looking at spaces where we can take the first move advantage. And semiconductor very clearly ticked all the boxes there. And because with our entire global firepower behind this, it was the right time and the ecosystem to launch this.